What's going on, everybody? We are back for another review, discussion, after show, whatever you want to call it, for The Man That Fell to Earth. This is episode 5. I have my co-host here, Lucas. We are back. What's going on, Lucas?
Man, everything. We are here to have fun with Faraday and the crew.
Right. Yeah.
And we can
Faraday.
only sleep for 11 minutes at a time.
Right. Yo. Yo, his conversation with them, like, it started with him talking to Justin. Like, Justin, like, look, I don't have time to deal with their human problems. We're on a tight schedule. I need you here. She's like, look, I gotta go. I got 3 days. I gotta go away. He's like, no. You got an obligation. You have to do this. She's like, bro, you better step. Like, I'm gone. And so then he
I
had to put up a
forbid you to
setup.
go.
Right. He was like, nah, homie, you ain't going nowhere. And she just dipped. And so all he had was Hatch and this new crew got to the
Mhm.
location, and he was pointing them in every direction. I was like, man, HR is gonna eat him alive. Because the conversations he was telling with them with some of the women and toiletry stuff, safety precaution stuff, like it didn't
I
even
like
matter. It didn't register
I
with
like the
him
way
at
you
all.
tried to go so calm with it and saying toiletry stuff when he locked the bathrooms and didn't allow them to go and said, if you're having a problem with your menses, it's something you should prepare for.
Bruh, that was cold blooded. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, he didn't have to do it like that.
I mean, it just shows that, in the end, he's not human. So everything, and I think later on in the episode, you get the full perfect explanation why he sees things the way he does. When he
Right.
talks about his planet, and when you're growing up, you have two options of being
Mhm.
two different things.
Right.
And if you're one thing, you don't have to have emotion at all
Right.
because everything is fact based. So if you think about it factually, if you have those issues, maybe you should prepare to deal with those issues.
Right. It is interesting though, because I wanted to talk to you about the two different subsets. This whole entire episode, he was having a nervous breakdown. Like, he's having an existential
Mhm.
crisis. Like, he doesn't know what to do. He's looking at he built the framing, and he kind of was like looking at the schematics. He was going through it. He's like, I'm not capable of doing this. Either one, Thomas was insane, or two, I'm not equipped or adept to do this. Either
Mhm.
one, it didn't even matter because he started to freak out. But while he was freaking out, he kept on recalling back to him leaving and going off planet.
Mhm.
And that was the first time we actually saw him like interacting with his family, leaving, and what that really did to him, what he was really processing. The question I have for you was the two different subsets. So you got the drone that he classifies himself as being one of the drone people
Mhm.
that kind of just maneuvers, does things, not adept to emotion. But then the other subset, it sounds like that's what Thomas was, or what
Mhm.
Thomas had to be to move forward and progress. The weird thing was when they were having that conversation about that, and I have a theory about who Watt is, but I'll get there in a little bit. When they started talking to him about, like, well, you know what, a part of humanity or a part of Earth is connected in some way, shape, or form to that other subset. So for me, I was curious, like, what does that mean? Because again, I don't have a frame of reference of who Thomas Newton was before in the past with the movie, but from what you know about Thomas and how it was framed to him, what does that look like? Like, was it that Thomas became adept to humanity and that allowed him to push further than he would have normally,
Now
or
you
was
that
he not
that's
a drone before?
no. It comes across that Thomas was a drone also,
That's fascinating.
but I think his subconscious or the woman he was talking to in his head
Right.
was telling him like you have to adapt to this. That's the only way it works. You have to stop seeing things and all out. It comes across as saying you have to stop seeing things logically
Right.
because that's not the way humans work.
Right.
So if you're going to adapt and attempt to do this work, you have to get to the point where Thomas was when he fully realized I have to emote into what it means to be a human being. And
Right.
once you do, you'll start seeing things differently.
Mhm.
So from what I can fully remember of the movie, Thomas Newton was a drone, almost identical to the way Faraday is.
That's
But
interesting.
then clearly Thomas got hooked on, which is weird. Also, Thomas got hooked on alcohol
He
and
did.
everything, and we see that's the thing that opened Faraday's mind up.
It did.
Was it's indulging in certain things that are human, and when you do indulge into them, it opens your mind up to be more receptive to a different way of thinking.
Right. It's a dangerous line
Yes.
because so my theory is this. I think Watt, the girl, I think it's like you said, I think it's a figment of his subconscious, but I think that might be Thomas Newton. I think that when he went into the rotation of the tornado or whatever it was, I
Mhm.
think that it connected in some way, shape, or form to his subconscious, because it never made sense if this is a signal and Thomas Newton wasn't in physically in that tornado, then how did he communicate with him? And so I was like, this everything about this character reminded me of what I would think that David Bowie's character would be. I don't know why, but it's just something
It looks
about it.
because it looks like David Bowie.
It does. It looks
Yeah.
completely like him.
Mhm.
Even down to the way that there was a scene that they showed when Faraday went into the tornado and he saw him. It was almost lined up identical to the same exact thing Thomas Newton said. And so I
Mhm.
was like, what is really going on here? Because who gave him the alcohol to begin with? How did he get the alcohol?
He
Because
went to
remember,
the bar.
but so wait, so when she first showed up, I thought she showed up with alcohol, and then he went with her to get alcohol. Because I thought, remember, she was
No,
like, "You want some?"
I think the entire time it was just him. This was
Yeah.
his subconscious letting go. Because keep in mind, it started because he got angry, which is a human emotion,
Yeah.
and he couldn't understand what was going on because he was frustrated. Again,
Hmm.
to be frustrated is removing logic. You
Yeah.
can't be fact based and logical if you get frustrated. He got frustrated because, as he said, either I don't understand Thomas' work or Thomas was insane.
Hmm.
That led to his frustration. So that led to him breaking. That led to his mind first understanding he needed to get to a place that Thomas was at for him to understand what Thomas was doing.
Right.
So I think the entire time that's his subconscious, but I think that subconscious is the way he views Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
he sees
interesting.
Thomas as this character. The character of Bill Knightley, when he saw Thomas in a tornado, I think is actually Thomas.
Yeah. I just don't know how they're communicating. There's pieces of this they're leaving out intention, which I like. That's the genius of the show
Yeah,
because you still don't know.
because
You still
Thomas is
don't know
still
a lot of things.
alive, technically.
Right. And I'm like, why would how would the government have not at the moment they took his eyes out, how did he even get away? Like they still haven't really divulged that information at all. But
Because they're still trying to catch Thomas.
right.
And then think about it, when he first met Wick, that the name? Am I saying it right?
I thought it was Watt or Wit, one or the
What?
other. Yeah.
What? Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah.
When he first met her, it was the time when he met her, it wasn't a full break in his personality when he met her, because he met her when he said, "Didn't you work with Thomas Newton?"
Right.
And it was like his mind was attempting to trick him.
Right. It was really weird. It was awesome. I mean, the actress did an amazing job. I've seen her in a lot of different stuff, but she played this role up. She enjoyed every minute of it, even down to the bar sequences. But when she got into when they got into the lab and she started destroying stuff, and like
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "What the heck?" And then he realized he looked at himself in the mirror like, "Yo, I've been beating myself up."
Yep.
And the weirder thing was when he put everything together initially, it blocked out the signal to the CIA. But
Mm-hmm.
then consequently, when he pulled it, now they can see everything. It was so weird. I don't. It's there's some things going on that Faraday is not realizing, and I don't know if it's his subconscious or if it's Thomas. One of the either way is still intriguing.
Or what
Um,
the device that Thomas created, which leads to this type of stuff happening.
right. That's true. I don't know. I really have absolutely no idea. But yeah, like you said, in his frustration, he had a he had a logical break, so to speak, with Justin's daughter. So Justin's daughter, she was working on a little project, and he was already frustrated, and he was looking. I think he was talking initially to Justin. He's literally talking to the situation or whatever, and then he
Yeah,
was
he
looking at the
was.
daughter. He's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm making it out for my own." And he was like, "Wait. You're not following the instructions. You're gonna fail. This is gonna be dumb." And broke the little girl's little heart. And then, of course, the grandfather got upset. Justin told him to get out. And then at that point, that's when he had his pitfall. The crazy thing is, after he had his pitfall fully, realized what he needed to do, he solved it. He went back to Justin and had a conversation with her, which we'll get to her in a second. But he basically alluded, he's like, "You are astonishing. You're amazing because you came up with this from just your imagination. This wasn't something that somebody told you conceptually. You came up with this from nothing." And then he looked at the little
Mhm.
girl, apologized to her, and said the same exact thing. It's like, what you're doing, in so many words, it's almost like no, you're setting the standard, kind of,
Is
for your race.
I'm about to say, here's the thing though. Is it setting the standard or did because what I got from those complete scenes is him accepting the difference between what he is and what humans are.
Mm,
Most humans create things out of nothing.
yeah,
There's not a blueprint to follow.
true.
In all honesty, as a drone, as when they separated the two subsects of what he is,
Mhm.
understand the subsect that he is, the drone that he is, everything is plotted for you.
Completely.
You
Yeah.
follow the directions.
Right.
Humans never do that.
At
There
all.
is no set instruction on how to be.
True.
So this whole thing was an awakening for him to realize that, oh, humans don't follow this. That's why
Mm,
you can create this out of nothing. That's why you can take something that has instructions and decide you're going to create something that you want out of it.
right.
And that's what blew his mind. That's what opened his mind up. And it only opened up when he constantly heard, look at it from 30,000 feet. What do you see?
Right.
You have to see it like a human would see it,
Right.
not as something that should have directions and is meant to be plotted the exact same way, but no, see it and then come up with a solution.
Right.
And I think that all of that connected to each other. And that's why he finds Justin astounding, is because you're already able to do that. But it's also that it also has to come to notice that that's what humans do. He's
Yeah.
not human. He's just,
Right.
this was his break into humanity because he's been, this whole time, he's been operating clearly from the last episode to the beginning of it with him being naked and him not understanding why the hell would you put on clothes? It doesn't make sense to do so. And how
Right.
humans do things that, in all honesty, if you thought about it, doesn't fully make sense to do things. But it's because you follow your own path, you follow your own goal, you do things that you want to do, and you
Hmm.
figure it out along the way. And this episode was him figuring it out. And the moment he figured out how to make the machine was only because he started thinking more like a human, the way Thomas did when he put everything together to build the machine.
Right. Um, with Justin in this episode, she took her 3 days away because I was like, man, she about to start procrastinating again, but she didn't. Um, but she also had a moment where she had to reflect on some stuff because the conversation she had with her dad kind of basically alluded that because he asked her, he's like, you know what, here's, the documentation. I know this is going to be close to what you need. And he's like, you're still thinking about him, right? And she said something that threw me off. She said, no, I'm not. Like, I'm actually doing really well. I was gonna ask you, and I had this theory, but I'm not gonna go into it. Do you think that there's some codependency she's having with Faraday? I'm not gonna say romantic, but I mean, for him giving one, not just giving her dad another chance, even though there's something about the dad we're gonna talk about. but
Mhm.
giving dad another chance, giving her another chance, that she's like kind of got a purpose,
She's
maneuvering
she's
with him.
she's using Faraday as a reason not to deal with her past issues. That's the codependency that's going on here. Because
Fascinating.
her father was right by asking her that question. Because when he presented her her old work and he said, "Are you dealing well with it? You're still thinking about it." She says, "No, I'm not." We know that's a lie because
Hmm.
we literally just went through an entire episode where she couldn't focus because she was thinking about him.
True.
So yes, you're still thinking about him, but she doesn't. She still wants to hide it from her father that it bothers her.
Hmm.
That she fully blames herself. The only
Hmm.
person she ever opened up to about blaming herself was Faraday.
So
But her
that's why I
father
was.
is the person she should talk to about it because she uses Faraday because there's no connection there. Faraday's not connected to him. And because
Right.
Faraday's not connected to him, and because she can isolate Faraday, he does not have human emotion. I can talk to him about this stuff and it not affect me because it won't affect him.
Right.
But if she talks to her dad about it, it's a completely the realism that comes across with talking to her dad about it is something she doesn't want to deal with. So she is still hiding that. And she's
Hmm.
going to keep on hiding it until she's forced to deal with it. And I think she won't deal with it until she dives into the work more. Because as
Yeah.
dad said, I pulled all this up from the incident that happened.
Hmm.
And this is how you can possibly solve this problem. As she
Right.
digs deeper into that incident and
That's when she
trying to
comes up
fix it,
with the idea
she'll
for
she'll come up
Faraday.
with more issues about him. Because
Yeah.
eventually she's just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. It's interesting because when she went to the lab, as much as Faraday was all over the place, like she was like, "Hey, everybody tighten up." Like she's like a drill sergeant. Like she had it on point. But there was something weird about this. So the daughter was like asking, "Is he your boyfriend?" And she's like, "No." Then you got the codependency stuff going on. And even down to when he complimented her, she took a moment, and I was concerned and curious at the same time. I was like, is she going to use doing like affection and communication with Faraday to not think about the real things that's dealing with her? Or is she really just moving on? Because I feel like there's a finite difference of like, okay, I have a new purpose here. I'm gonna let go of the past and I'm gonna move forward. And then there's another thing where it's like codependency. I'm gonna use this so I don't have to deal with my trauma, and this will be my replacement
There
person,
you
kind
go.
of thing. Do you
Because keep
think
in mind,
it's
she's
both, or you think it's
no,
one or the
it's
other?
easy. It's easy. She's not dealing with her trauma at all.
Mm.
She's completely pushed. We literally just we saw her break in the last episode, and she's not dealt with that break yet
Yeah,
at all.
she used Faraday's breakdown as
Exactly.
a
She used
supplement
his
to move
she used
forward.
his breakdown to move forward, but she's not dealt with her breakdown.
Mm.
Because in this episode, like you clearly get Faraday's still broken in a way as he's thinking about leaving his family.
Yep.
Like that still bothers him that he left his family. And
Yeah.
he's attempting to still deal with the ramifications of leaving
Ramifications
his
of what he
family.
did. Right. Right. Because he
Justin
doesn't
is
even
not
know.
Justin is not dealing with it at all. She's doing what a lot of people do in tragedy. She's diving into the work. First it broke her because the work was reminding her of him.
Right.
And now she decided just to dive directly into it. That way she can attempt to push him to the side, but you're not going to be able to push him to a side. And I think what really makes it clear is at the end of the episode, when she's looking at her daughter and her father says she's going to be different than most people.
Yeah.
I think the correlation is she's going to be more like her father than anything else. And that's
Yeah.
what she's not prepared to deal with
Yeah.
because she has a daily reminder of what
No.
she believes is her failure.
Yeah. It's true. Um, it was really, like you said, it was that I felt that for sure. And then I also saw her looking at Faraday with the daughter, and I was kind of like, Justin, are you trying to replace, have
Oh
somebody
no,
to
no, no,
kind
no,
of
no, no.
put in
At
a
that point, don't look at Faraday at all. She's not. She's Faraday's there. She's looking at her daughter strictly there.
Mm,
And you can tell again, it leads more into what the father said afterwards when he says she's going to be different than any, like she's staring at her daughter because I believe she sees him in her daughter, and that's bothering her a little bit.
yeah, I feel like did she say was it like the first year of the daughter's life where she thought something was going to happen?
She kept on staring over her because she was waiting, because
Mm-hmm.
that poison technically that
Could have
killed
transferred
him
over, right?
could have transferred over, so she was terrified that it would. Now
Yeah.
that it's not there, and now her daughter's exhibiting behaviors that her father had,
Mm-hmm.
that's what she was looking at, because she's more in amazement of that.
Right. It's gonna be
So I
interesting.
think it's a nice trick they played, because it that scene wasn't about Faraday, and I'm starting to think this show isn't about Faraday. It may end up being way more about the daughter and
Okay.
her way of thinking. Because again, her and Faraday's conversation when he said, "Did you know what you were building before you started?" And she said, "No, I put this piece together, and then it came together." It's
Mm-hmm.
not a normal way of thinking.
Right.
And that helped him a lot for him to understand the way humans think. Because by the time Thomas created all these inventions, Thomas thought like a human.
Right. It's true. Um, the dad. I think that's the well, we can talk about the CIA person in a second, but the dad, while he was walking the daughter down the street,
Mm-hmm.
he had what appeared to be a lapse, and I don't know what that means. It's either two different things. Either one, it's coming back. Faraday promised that it wasn't going to come back,
I don't think it's coming back. I think that's a mental thing.
or like you said, the other thing I was like, is it that his body is starting to officially break down, like it's reaching its apex? Because I think the Faraday said he will no longer have this debilitating disease until the end of his life, something
Yeah.
like that. And I'm wondering if his body is just about to break down. I
Let
really
me
don't
ask
know. I was curious your perspective on it.
let me ask a question. Or could it have been that he kind of foresaw what was happening before it did? And that's why he was able to pull the grand, because you saw him and the granddaughter were walking and she was calling like she was attempting to talk to him. But he was more focused on everything that was going on around her. Could it
Mm-hmm.
have been that he kind of saw what was about to happen? And that's what made him snatch her up to save her, because he saw it was about to happen. It literally felt like a flash moment in that part with him, where it was like he was seeing something and they didn't show what he was seeing, but he was seeing something and he
Mm-hmm.
snatched her up. Like, other than that, they were both walking together. So the conversation she was having with him would have been while they were walking.
Right. Yeah, it looked like you said, it looked like he was seeing something, or he just was incapacitated for a period of second, and then he snapped back, and then he was like, "What are y'all doing? This is in
Only reason I
reaction."
didn't think that it was because he was at a standstill is because I would assume two people in a crosswalk, neither one of those cars would have kept on going if he was at a standstill.
True. That's
But if
true.
it was something where he just happened to see it happening, and that's what made her, which brings into question, when Faraday cured him, what else did Faraday give him?
I really don't know, because one of the things that was weird when Faraday was hallucinating with Watt in the lab, he saw, which I thought was the stuff that came out of the old man. It was either
Hmm.
sand or it looked like the stuff that came out of the old man. It was so weird. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, that was weird. I hadn't seen that since the old man got stuff pulled out of him. But I was like, maybe it could be the tornado. I don't know. I really have no idea. Like, that one lost me. But I was curious more so what you
It
thought.
was it was a slow motion shot, and then the look of it, it felt like he was seeing something about to happen,
Hmm.
and his mind trying to compute, like, wait a minute, what am I looking at here? And then it leads him to grab his granddaughter, because at that point they're in kind of like in the street.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming both of those cars, when they kept on coming, if they were in the street. But
Right.
if it was something happening where they were walking and he sensed it about to happen and he grabbed her.
Right. Yeah, it was a complete reaction. Like it wasn't like he was looking like, where am I? Like he
Yeah.
reacted to
He knew
something.
exactly where he was. He understood the accident that took place, and he told him, like, if you don't know how to drive, you shouldn't be driving. Like,
Yeah.
but the perception is we're not understanding just how quickly he grabbed his granddaughter.
No, it's too hard to tell based on how they shot it. Um, but yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm curious. I really don't know. Um, I guess last but not least is Hatch, the CIA agent, the sister. I mean, now
Yeah.
Hatch has the full understanding that his sister's compromised, they're compromised, and they're under
Their
direct surveillance of the CIA. And the
their
father
father's deal.
pitfalled them. Yeah,
The
yeah,
father's deal. Because when he says, did you think the chips wouldn't come due on your father's deal? Like, you fully understand, like, your father worked with us.
yeah.
He understood everything that we're doing. He understood who Thomas was. Did you tell her who Faraday is? What Faraday is?
Hmm.
Like, it goes again, it goes back to the same principles. Like, okay, if you're in the bed with them, how much information does he share? Because
Right,
clearly the CIA agents here told him, you're not to share this with Justin. You definitely not to tell him who we are and what we know. But
right,
whatever he's creating, we'll never let it get built.
right.
But
Which
we
is
just have to know as an
fascinating.
audience that what he's creating is not a bad thing.
Right. And not just that, the CIA agent is certifiable, and he's got a chip on his shoulder because of Thomas.
Yep.
His whole prime directive, you said it last week, was to get Thomas by any means
Yeah.
necessary. Um, Thomas is way too smart for all these people, to be honest with you, though. Thomas might be insane, but he's way too smart for all these people. I'm just curious what Thomas's end game is, because I don't. My perception is this, and I don't know enough about Thomas because I didn't see the movie, but based on how they're showing him here, him bringing Faraday there and the creation of this thing is not the end game. It's something else, and I don't really know what it is. But it feels like there's something else going on, and I'm very curious to see where it's gonna go.
A bigger purpose of exactly what they're creating, why they're creating it. Clearly, we
Mm-hmm.
understand why Faraday is looking for it, because this is a device that will save his planet.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the other purpose of this? Or
Right.
what is, or matter of fact, just flip it. What is Thomas' purpose for revenge? Because Thomas it is exhibiting human behavior, and revenge is one
Right.
of them.
That's true. Yeah, because I mean, he's looking at like, man, I was cut off from my wife. I was cut off like my eyes. Like you guys
Mhm.
experimented on me. I really don't know. I really don't know.
And the point that they're using Faraday, not to get Faraday, not to stop Faraday per se, but to use Faraday to get to Thomas.
Mhm.
Like, they identify Thomas as the threat, not Faraday at all.
Right. Man, it's all gonna come to an interesting head. Um, do you think the alcohol is a positive or negative though
Negative.
coming out of this episode?
Negative. I saw what happened to Thomas. It is not positive for them to engage in any form of alcohol.
Only reason why I ask is because I don't know that Faraday would have come to the conclusion that he came to. If it's
Without
just
it.
like the last episode. The last
Mhm.
episode, he got the understanding because of the drugs of what
Well,
really was going
it,
on. He
it's
opened
it's
himself
the
up.
human indulgence that brings these thoughts on for them. This is literally the same thing Thomas went through. It's a human indulgence that brought the thoughts and changed the way Thomas starts seeing things.
Right.
Faraday, in his logical mind, understood You have to do this to see things. Because remember, he was so frustrated, but he didn't meet her, Wick, Watt, until he was frustrated.
Yeah.
The moment he became frustrated, which is way more of a human emotion than an emotion he should be able to exhibit,
True.
he still understands what broke Thomas. Do you think he then thought, if this broke Thomas, I need to put my mind in a state that Thomas was in for me to understand him? That's when alcohol comes into play. It's not a good thing at all. It's a horrible thing. But I can't think like Thomas unless I do the things that Thomas used to do.
That's interesting. So a bit, but I'm gonna ask you this question. One of the other things, well, you've told me, I think that Thomas had a couple different relationships. Went around the
Well,
block a couple different times.
Thomas's relationship dealt with that was the person who introduced him to alcohol.
Which is the last person from the last episode.
The bee woman from last episode. She's the one who she basically was drugging Thomas with alcohol.
Dang.
So that's what led to those relationships. It wasn't a situation where he indulged in them, like thinking this is the way to be a human. She drugged him. She constantly kept him drunk.
Dang.
So that led him to indulge into certain other things also. I think here with Faraday, he has an understanding that, okay, if I do this, maybe I can think the way Thomas thought, and maybe I can figure this puzzle out.
Right.
But just as any human, when you get too drunk, you feel like you step outside your own body. And you feel like someone else took over. Welcome to Wick or Watt, feeling like they took over.
That's crazy. Well, is there anything else? We went through everything, right?
Let's see. We get the CIA agents. We got the breaking down. We got Hatch and his sister, which again, another stuff is Edie is finally realizing that like her dad isn't the person that she always thought her father was, and he's much worse than that.
I feel bad for Hatch, honestly, because he's been really trying to protect his sister. Because he even asked the agent, he's like, "Did you tell her what he was?" And she was like, "Did you use tact when you told her?" Like he really does care about his sister, even though she refuses to accept his love for her.
Oh, definitely at this point.
But
I think that's it, though. I think we hit every major point that we needed to hit.
Yeah. I love the show. just so y'all understand, like we broke down this in less than 32 minutes, and honestly,
because this was the episode where it was more straightforward than the other episodes in the past. And that's because the show has completely come into form exactly what you're going to get here. This is Faraday. He needs to now just strictly figure out what's going on with Thomas Newton.
Right.
And Justin has to understand her family more. She's had to deal with her emotions. So there's not really outside influences that will cause us to have to go for 40 minutes. It's unnecessary.
Right.
But y'all just want us to talk about everything else humanly possible besides the show.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that today.
Exactly. We're never doing that. That is not the goal here. We're going to stay focused on the man who fell from Earth, because the show is interesting enough to stay strictly focused on this show.
Yeah. How many episodes we got left? Is it a total of 9 episodes for the season?
Well, we have a total of 7 so far. I don't know how many total it is, but
yeah, we'll be back next week for episode 6, and hope you guys subscribe, hit the bell button. We got a lot of other shows that we're going to be doing reviews for. We got The Boys coming up.
Hold on. Let me say, maybe some Stranger Things for you to look forward to.
What is wrong with you? We got Umbrella Academy. We got a lot of different things, and we still are going to be doing The Baby for HBO Max. We're still doing FX's Under the Banner of Heaven.
I'm never going to get that name right.
We're going to be doing The Old Man for FX pretty soon. So we got a lot of content for you guys. So make sure you're already subscribed. If you're not, make sure you hit the post notification button. It'll be on the tagline of this outro, and we'll be back next week. Peace, guys.
Falling off the top of the skyline.